On January 3, 1999, Daphne Jones called her grandmother and said she planned to tell her boyfriend she was moving out. That afternoon, she was scheduled to start her 3 p.m. shift as a hostess at Brennan's restaurant. However, she didn't show up. Instead, her cousin received a call from her around that time. Daphne sounded upset during their conversation. The following afternoon, her apartment was found in a strange state. The lights were off, but the heater, television, and iron were still on, and food had been left out. It appeared she had left abruptly, and Daphne has not been seen or heard from since. At the time of her disappearance, Daphne was attending the University of New Orleans. She had recently moved out of the dorms into her own apartment after discovering she was pregnant. She told her family that the baby's father was pressuring her to have an abortion. Daphne disappeared just days before she was scheduled to move back to Washington, D.C., where she had attended high school. She had already purchased a plane ticket and was due to fly out on January 9th to live with her mother. In the years since her disappearance, Daphne's parents and grandmother have passed away. Her remaining family members strongly believe she was murdered. Her case remains unsolved. Ivy was last seen around 4 p.m. on March 14, 2010, leaving her home east of Poplar Bridge in Poplar, Montana. She had gone out to walk 4 of her family's dogs. About 15 to 20 minutes later, the dogs returned home alone, without Ivy. She has not been seen or heard from since. Investigators believe Ivy may have fallen through thin ice on the Missouri River. Search teams followed her footprints across the frozen surface until they abruptly stopped at a break in the ice on the river's main channel. The dogs' tracks were also found at the edge of the hole, suggesting they had frantically paced near the opening after Ivy fell in. At the time of her disappearance, Ivy was a 5th grade student at Culbertson School. She lived with her mother and grandparents. Although her body was never recovered, she is presumed to have died in the river. Her family held a memorial service in her honor not long after she vanished. Joel Wells was last seen on January 15, 1994, in Hazard, Kentucky. Earlier that day, he got into an argument with a group of friends and walked away from them. He then went to a Burger King at the Black Gold Shopping Center. Wells arrived as the restaurant was closing and began banging on the door. He appeared panicked and acted as if someone was chasing him. Employees called the police, who arrived within minutes, but Wells had already vanished. Near the shopping center was a Walmart, where Wells reportedly tried to hitch a ride with customers leaving the store after his encounter at Burger King. Tracker dogs picked up his scent near the river behind City Hall, but searches in that area yielded no clues about his whereabouts. Wells disappeared less than 24 hours after a gas station on Main Street in Hazard was robbed, and its attendant was shot and killed. The murderer was later convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. Authorities explored whether Wells's disappearance was connected to the murder, but found no evidence linking the two. Joel Wells was one of 14 siblings and left behind 2 sons. His disappearance remains a mystery. Barbara Monaco and her older sister lived in Derby, Connecticut in 1978. They took a vacation trip to Virginia Beach, Virginia on August 20th, the day after Monaco's 18th birthday, and registered at the Aloha Motel on 15th Street. They planned to stay in Virginia for a week. Monaco and her sister went to the Country Comfort Bar on Pacific Avenue on the night of August 22nd. A man there kept urging Monaco to go out with him and told her he had a yacht, but she was uninterested. Monaco was last seen at 1 a.m. August 23rd, when she left her sister and began walking to a bar called Peabody's, where she had prearranged a date with a bartender. The bar was 6 blocks away. Witnesses saw Monaco get into a car on Pacific Avenue. The vehicle reportedly contained 4 or 5 men. She never arrived for her date and has never been heard from again. Her sister tried to report her as a missing person later that day, but the police refused to take a report for 48 hours. 8 months after Monaco's disappearance, her family advertised a $10,000 reward for her recovery, dead or alive. In response to the ad, A man came forward claiming he had witnessed Monaco's assault and murder the night of her disappearance. He told investigators that Monaco's killers had abducted her as she walked along Pacific Avenue, put her in a sedan, drove her to a lakeside cottage near Oceana, Virginia, killed her and dumped her body in a lake. Authorities drained the lake and found a cinder block with a rope tied to it, but they didn't find Monaco's remains. The informant reportedly passed a polygraph exam, but he ceased cooperating after authorities refused to offer him immunity from prosecution in exchange for his testimony. Other witnesses have been interviewed over the years. James Elmore Jr. spoke to the police in 2001 and reportedly gave them information he could only have known if he was with Monaco on the night of her disappearance. He agreed to take a polygraph to verify the authenticity of his story, but only hours after he made his statement, and before he could take the test, he took his own life outside his apartment. No arrests have been made in connection with Monaco's case. Her family held a memorial service for her in 2003 on the 25th anniversary of her disappearance. Margaret was last seen on July 2, 1999, in Silver Springs, Nevada. She left her residence at the five-star mobile home park on West 5th Street while her son, Timothy Ray Pennington, and his wife were inside watching television. According to them, Margaret was not acting out of the ordinary that day. She was never seen or heard from again and was reported missing a week later, on July 9th. Although Margaret had occasionally gone off the grid in the past, she had never been gone for such a long period, and she always returned to collect her Social Security checks. This time, she vanished without a trace. Investigators now believe she may have been the victim of foul play, and they have identified a person of interest, someone close to her. Friends of Margaret reported that her husband had threatened her life multiple times. Her son, Timothy, also had a history of violence. In 2000, he was convicted of kidnapping his estranged wife during their separation. He held her at gunpoint, fired shots, and kept her hostage for several hours. After serving time for the kidnapping, Timothy was released, and in 2012, he murdered his girlfriend before taking his own life. It's unclear whether Timothy or Margaret's husband were ever officially ruled out as suspects in her disappearance. Margaret's case remains unsolved.